So what is it that you wanted most to accomplish with this project?
I think with Earth Conversations, my kind of vision or my dream is that we bring together inspirational speakers from all around the world. We give them space. We allow people to come in for free. I feel that's really important. We're not putting any barriers to people participating. So we've got the inspiration, we've got the ideas, but then we couple that with action research. And by that, I mean, we encourage people to reflect, to think about themselves, to think about how we work together, to think about taking action. So it's a kind of deeper process. So we're not just inviting, although that's really important, we're inviting inspirational people, but also we're really asking people to come to think more and to hopefully be inspired by what's happening and take action. So to me, it's really exciting. And obviously the whole title is Earth. So we're seeing the Earth as one, as whole, as holistic, but also, you know, really hopeful and positive. That's I think my main thing out of it, that we're going to really inspire people. What do you think, Jagdish? I think it was something like that when we talked together, wasn't it?
Yes, Helena, I agree with you. At the back of our mind was this principle that we could get people to sit together, converse together, engage, take action. But I have a confession to make. When I said we get it started, and I was very hesitant, I never thought this would work. And when Helena said, I want to work with you, and Gun said, I'll come along and support you all, that's when it really began. But let me confess, I really worked with no fixed goals or targets. Okay, it was absolutely nebulous. I would say we are happy to let it go where it may. You know, it is emergent in that sense. I don't know where this leads. I cannot say that. I cannot say if it will fizzle out, if it will become a new source of energy for ASP. But I know this one thing, Elliot, and Helena, you might agree, we know that conversations are enriching. They're meaningful. They have within them several learning moments, whether you're sitting to learn or not to learn. For me, that's good enough. I'd say the rest will take care of itself. Let's see where it goes. That would be my approach.
Yeah, and I think already you can see, Elliot, you know, we started with Satish Kumar, who's had such an experience all his life of working for peace and working for ecology, but also, you know, lots of laughter and, you know, and good fun as well. So I think, and then we're going to have Vandava Shiva as a speaker. And I think Vandava Shiva will be really important because she does talk about how you can, you know, sometimes it can feel the forces against, you know, having an ecological future or rewilding the planet are very big. But Vandava Shiva is rooted in a philosophy that we can do this working together from the grassroots up. So, you know, I think that just these two first inspirational speakers already take us into inspiring territory.
Absolutely. Could you give a quick explanation on action research, so it's for people who haven't heard about it or know what it would be?
Well, I think we'll both have a different go at this, but I'll start and then we'll. And I think what I'd like to say, Elliot, the first meeting we had, which was from the action research side, which was Margaret Gearty, Jill Coleman and Judy Marshall, I think they tried in their meeting to kind of explain, and I think every time we have a meeting, we will try and explain it. But for me, action research, I first came across it when I was as a manager, actually, a senior manager in a local authority, and I managed community development teams and neighborhood regeneration. And I was just very excited because it felt to me that action research was a way to take action and then reflect on it. And, you know, when you work in communities, you have to think about things like power and equalities and diversity, and action research, because of its structure, it helps you do so. So, you know, I'm never too fixed on words. I think you can adapt them. But I think it's the principles that we get from action research that can guide us in our action, which to me is very important. And the same for you, Jagdish, because you learned it as well, didn't you, on the masters?
Yes, yes, Helena. So in the classic sense, it is correct to say that you take action, you reflect, you learn from it, and you take further action. So absolutely, that's the theory, that's the anchor. It's a very democratic process in that sense. I would say fundamentally, I come from a B school in Mumbai, and I'd say fundamentally, action research simply says to me that we are not disinterested observers trying to remove ourselves from the situation and then study it without wanting to change anything. Because a lot of the positive space in which research happens says, hey, your presence intrudes. It spoils the system. Keep the purity of the system and then study it and steal from it the findings that you see for knowledge elsewhere. Action research doesn't buy that. Okay, we do research with, not research on. And that's a critical difference. So we are involved, Elliot. We are committed. We will look to learn and we will help to change as we change ourselves. Okay, so the goal in my view is not to collect a bag full of learnings, a bag full of A-star journals, and work on the illusion of objectivity, because objectivity is always an illusion, whatever they tell you. Okay, but to say that we are involved, how can we work together? How can researchers and all others as equal partners, okay, help change the situation for the better? We can't change it. We can't study it, but you and I together can move to a place that we both agree is better. And that's the beauty of action research. It's a life-changing journey for me. It's something very powerful. I think when we had our last conversation, it came out beautifully. It's a very nuanced space and very difficult to hold because it gives you the freedom to research in the way you want to research. And some others can come and call it flaky. There is no regression here. There are no quantitative tables here. There is no conclusive proof here. But you and I know if we are walking together and we are feeling good, we are walking in the right space. So for us, if I may say, the notion that we are removed from the system is illogical, non-existent, artificial. We cannot remove ourselves from the system. We are a part and parcel of it. By the very act of trying to study it, I think we get involved and we change the system because we are intruding in the system. Now we recognize that. We do so humbly, and we do not think of ourselves as some sterile observers from Mars. We are earth beings in communion with others, including those who we do AR with. That's how I would sum up the way I feel and think about it.
And I think it's so important, Elliot, what Jagdish is saying, because I think participation is at the heart of action research. And our next action research speaker is Peter Reeson, and he has done a lot of work on something called Cooperative Inquiry, where people inquire together and they become co-inquirers and they choose their own research question. And, you know, that kind of principle that we can work together as communities or business people or NGOs, whatever health workers, to solve our own problems is a very powerful one. You know, so that's why I like it so much. So yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Could either of you give like a personal example of when you used action research?
Well, I've used action research when I was in local government. So we used it, we set up, on one case, we set up a series of workshops where we used it to offer the ideas to community people, local government officers, health workers, to explore how they might improve their youth and community work. I do workshops on what's happening to the planet and biodiversity loss, and I ask people to reflect, you know, in silence and about what's happening to the world. So I'm using action research as sort of living life as inquiry. And then I use it now currently when I'm teaching, you know, to encourage students to think about what they're doing and reflect, and also think about taking action. So yeah, I found it immensely useful in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, so I could give you a very personal example, Elliot. I run a nonprofit news foundation called the Foundation of the Billion Press. You know, I'm a journalist. And this is, this was designed as an organization. I called it the Billion Press because I saw it as a press for the billion plus people of India, to bring to focus, people less seen, voices less heard, perspectives less argued. Okay, and how does a journalist break away from the mainstream, build his own organization with an empty pocket, be able to dream that it is possible to create space where a different kind of journalism may flourish, okay, and then build it and then deliver it and play with it, which I do today, is nothing but the gift of action research. You start it, you're hesitant, you worry, you take the first step, you learn from it, you correct, you go on reflecting. So it's worked with me, for me, and I work with a team of people. I think that's action research in practice. I would say Earth Conversations is in many ways action research. The whole journey of Earth Conversations is a good action research project, because we are talking, we are exploring, we are learning, we see what we pick up, we will correct, and we'll go further. And we don't know where this will go, so it's emergent. That's a good example of action research, if you ask me.
Yeah, definitely. What was it in the first place that made you want to start Earth Conversations?
I think it was, I was at an ASP board meeting actually, and both Gwyn and Jagdish were there, and somehow we were talking about what ASP could do. And Jagdish actually came in and said, what I'd like to do is, more learning about action research, but also speakers. And I said, oh, that's what I would like to do. I'd really like to do that. That'd be really exciting. And then I think Gwyn, quite soon after, came in and said, I'd be really interested in this for ASP. So it was just really exciting. It just happened, which was just so lovely. One of these moments which happened.
True, very true. Elliot, I would say for me, conversations is a lot, is everything. I told you I'm a journalist. At the heart of journalism is a good conversation. Okay. Conversations, I also believe, are at the heart of good living. They open spaces for what I would say is an unhurried exchange of ideas, a give and take that will help me appreciate, learn, build, understand perspectives and see through your eyes only when I converse with you. Furthermore, being a journalist, I have been quite dismayed to see this culture of the 30-second soundbite, or the 20-word or the 30-word or a 40-word quote. Tell me fast, give me a quick quote. I got to write a snappy story. And I always believe that we do disservice to the issue when we try to, make these snazzy, snappy, sexy kind of, small mini stories because people are in a hurry. We need space to understand. We need space to reflect, and conversations offer us that. In my own space, I have already begun running what I call a long form conversations that translate into books. I'm doing one with Satish Kumar, who was our first speaker. In fact, we got him as a speaker because of the conversation that began for the book on conversations, and that's how he agreed. And he was so delighted. He was very generous with his time. But I believe long form conversations that can go on for days are required for me to unpack complex ideas, nuanced thinking, to draw on the experiences of a life of learning. How can I do it in a 30-second soundbite? And therefore, conversations are important. So I'd say Earth Conversations is a very practical way of involving a large community, 90 minutes at a time, important people, and open that space. I would take it and build it even more in my space and say, I'd talk for 4 days and 5 days and see where this goes.
Yeah, fair enough. What do you think was the most important thing about it in the Earth Conversations? What was the most important thing that's happened around involving it so far?
Well, I think what's been really interesting, and remember we're very much in the early stages, but I think maybe Earth Conversations will be a key to unlocking others taking action or setting groups up or reflecting together. So, what I'm hopeful is that maybe things will branch out from it. People can network at the meeting, they see each other there. So it can be not just what we're talking about, which is the set of speakers and the set of speakers around action research, but the other activities can flourish and other networks. And I think that would be really exciting. And again, remember, Elliot, when I started off, the whole thing is about, you know, we really, really, really need to take action now because this decade is so crucial. So what I'm hoping is that you know, the Earth conversations, that they will spark people together to take action, and that would be really exciting. And like, you know, you're saying your interest is rewilding. You know, we could get a speaker on rewilding. You know, there's a huge world out there of ideas that we can bring in. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so good. I would add a small bit to say that what has been very interesting for me is the readiness of very important and senior people to come and spend time with us. We haven't had to stretch too much. We asked them. They said yes. Would you believe it, Elliot, that our three, who I've called the three extraordinary teachers, Margaret, Jill Coleman, and Judy Marshall, spent hours, I would think, preparing for this. They had a meeting with us. Then they had a meeting among themselves, and I was amazed, humbled by the kind of effort they have put into coming. And look at what they have given us. You know, and agreed to spend time with us. Surely there is something valuable here. I mean, these are leaders in areas of action research, of sustainability, of a lifelong of work. Vandana Shiva, Satish Kumar, the three teachers, Peter Reeson, who will follow, and many others who will come. They want to. So there is a yearning, not only from our community, also from the community of leaders. Bringing the two together, I think magic will happen. I can't pinpoint this growth, this point of this learning, but the overall feel is very, very positive. The vibes are very positive. I don't know how far this could go. I hope it does go very
far. Okay, so what do you think would be okay, have you sum up the past and the present and the future of the Earth conversations?
Well, Elliot, I'm going to be really, I'm going to say my vision here, and who knows what will happen, but I feel that something that I haven't said up till now is the other thing about action research. It allows you to explore spirituality in a way that is acceptable within organizations and communities. It opens the doors to being able to see the world as special or precious or sacred, different words, and to see animals and the clouds and the sea and our whole planet as very precious and potentially sacred. And I think for me, those kind of opening of doors that we can do together without imposing views on people, asking questions, reflecting cycles is really important. And personally, Elliot, if we can find a way, maybe steady as we go, to keep it going over years, I would really like that. The ASP itself was founded in 2006 and has been going ever since. And the Masters in Business and Responsibility, which I took, was founded in 1997. So there is a history here of sort of faithfulness to the ideas and growing this work. And I would hope very much we can build on that and keep this going, you know, create something that is sustainable over not just this year, but over a number of years, maybe this decade, the decade of the 2030s, which is so important.
Yeah, good. I would add to that a little, Elliot, to say that it is my hope, and we did speak of this the last time we met, that someday this will translate to a physical meeting, maybe at Hawkwood or wherever. It's possible. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's possible. It's possible that we all get together in person and have this in space where we can see, feel, touch, hug each other. That would be one good way of building it. It's going to be challenging. The other thing that I think where a lot of our responsibility, sustainability practice miss out, and this happens willy-nilly because we are centered in a certain space, is that we don't really understand sometimes the lack of diversity with which we operate. Like it or no, Elliot, ASP, even the program I took, which is Astroch's Master in Sustainability and Responsibility, AMSR, or RBP, are largely UK-centered, Eurocentric. We need to look beyond. There are ideas beyond in other continents. And one reason why I wanted to opt in for this role at ASP as director is to bring in a sense of diversity and to see if I can or cannot bring in ideas that probably would be very different, would be challenging, would at least make some space for me to say that these ideas exist beyond the immediate borders of Europe. So I would think Earth Conversations, by getting in people from different, Vandana Shiva here, and we'll get many more, is open spaces and be more appreciative and sensitive to allowing for making space for diverse ideas. That would be my hope. Second, and then therefore sensitize the entire community to say, hey, yes, it's good to be talking about the issues in Europe. It's bigger and greater to be looking at some ideas from other continents as well. Africa, Asia, go beyond. The third would be, I would not at all be, I would be very excited about the idea of, this leading on to spirituality. The practice, they're very closely linked. And till, I believe at least, till you do not appreciate the idea of spirituality, the oneness with the cosmos, really the why of sustainability never becomes clear. So we could naturally get into that space. That's a wonderful point that Helena made. And the last point, it would be my hope. I've not mentioned this. I don't know if she'll go on record, but I'll say it, and then you can decide whether to keep it. And Helena and Gwen can advise me. Is that, AMSR closed down, and maybe there is space to restart some of these, that journey. And when the time is right, it may. We never know. That was a hope that I would entertain.
That's a lovely hope. I think we'll all second that one, Jagdish. I think that is a lovely hope.
Yeah.
And then the final question: since you've both been in ASP, what would you say your favourite moment has been?
What I really like is ASP is kind of bringing different people in, maybe who've not come across action research, not been in that world, but also really trying to bring a younger generation with an older generation. I really like that. I think there's great potential there for us working together. So I really like that kind of aim and spirit of ASP, which I see operating, beyond Earth Conversations, but in, say, the new members meetings and things like that, the other opportunities that are out there. So I really enjoyed that and value it.
Yeah. So Elliot, as I mentioned, the role of the director that I occupy is interesting. I came here, as I mentioned to you, the 1-point mission to help increase diversity, to bring in voices, to see if I can represent people from faraway regions, okay, to bring ideas from another continent, to add voice of a different kind, if you will, okay. The most exciting aspect for me was I was readily accepted. Okay, there was never a moment I felt that, I was in a space where I shouldn't be. I was given the space I asked. Yes, I didn't ask for much, but wherever I wanted to say, I was heard respectfully. Okay, all the time given. Here is a culture that is very rich, I would say. You have to be here to appreciate it. It's also been a huge learning journey. And if you ask me about ASP, I'd say ASP doesn't ask you for anything. It's there. You can use it. You can play. You can lie down on a pillow if you ask, and you may want to mold it as much it might seek to mold you, but it doesn't want to mold you. It is there. It's playing with your ideas. You are ASP, and it's a very, very unique, soft, not demanding, not mission. We shall do this and we do this quarter. It's nothing of that kind. Sometimes we have activities that are so many that we can't handle the mails. And sometimes there is a lull period, So it happens. It happens as it happens. And that's the beauty of ASP. And I'd say a good part of this, goes to Ben and the team that has been running it for so long, that allows it to flourish in this manner. It's a very unique way of flourishing. Just imagine, do you think Earth Conversations would have been possible if Helena and I had not exchanged those few words and Gwen had not come in and said, I'll be there to back up? Wouldn't have. So who has done it? I have not done it. ASP has done it. So I'd say that's the beauty of ASP. That's a beautiful moment.